My name is Catherine Thornton, 34 years old, and my perfect Christmas Eve almost collapsed when my parents called to uninvite me from our family gathering. After promising for months that this year would be different, my father said I wasn't welcome because my lifestyle choices were inappropriate for a family celebration. My mother thought I would accept it quietly like always, but this time they went too far. The consequences were far beyond what anyone could imagine. Before continuing my story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Like and subscribe for more family secrets that nobody talks about. It all started 3 weeks before Christmas. I had just finished decorating my new home, a stunning $3 million mansion in an upscale Connecticut neighborhood that I purchased after years of building my interior design business. The grand staircase was adorned with garlands, the 12-foot tree in the foyer sparkled with lights, and the smell of cinnamon and pine filled every room. I was finally living the life I had worked so hard for, yet something was missing. Family had always been complicated for me. My parents, Richard and Margaret Thornton, were old-money conservatives who never approved of my decision to start my own business instead of marrying into one of the appropriate families they had selected. Our relationship had been strained for years, but I thought things were improving. They had even agreed to host Christmas at their estate and insisted I attend. "Catherine, darling," my mother had said during our Thanksgiving call, "this Christmas will be special. Your father and I want to make amends. We've invited the extended family, and everyone's excited to see you." I was skeptical, but hopeful. It had been 3 years since I'd spent Christmas with my family. 3 years of polite decline and spending holidays alone or with friends. Maybe things were finally changing. I bought expensive gifts, had a gown tailored for the occasion, and even practiced responses to inevitable questions about my personal life. I was prepared for everything, except rejection. The call came on December 23rd. I was in my kitchen finalizing the recipe for the bourbon pecan pie I planned to bring when my phone lit up with my father's name. "Catherine!" His voice was cold, formal. "There's been a change of plans." "What kind of change?" I asked, my stomach already tightening. "Your mother and I feel it would be best if you didn't join us tomorrow." The wooden spoon in my hand froze mid-stir. "I don't understand." "We've invited the Hawthorns and their son William." My father cleared his throat. "They're very traditional, and your lifestyle might make them uncomfortable." "My lifestyle? You mean my successful business? Or the fact that I'm single at 34? You know what I mean, Catherine. The way you flaunt your independence, that house you bought. It sends the wrong message." I gripped the counter to steady myself. The house I worked for? The independence I earned? "This isn't a discussion. We think it's best you make other arrangements this year. Perhaps next Christmas things will be different." The call ended before I could respond. I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by baking ingredients and half-wrapped presents, completely alone. I'd love to say I responded with dignity, but the truth is, I crumbled. I slid down against the refrigerator and sobbed until my throat was raw. Every childhood rejection, every disappointed look, every subtle criticism came flooding back. I was that little girl again, never quite good enough, never fitting the mold they created for me. Hours passed. The sky darkened outside my kitchen windows, and the tears eventually stopped. In their place came something unexpected: resolve. I looked around my beautiful home, the home I had designed, paid for, and filled with things that brought me joy. Why was I letting my parents' approval dictate my happiness? I had built this life without their support. I didn't need their permission to enjoy it. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. I had neighbors I barely knew beyond polite waves, colleagues I'd never socialized with outside of work, even my assistant Dana, who had mentioned having no holiday plans. What if I invited them all? What if I turned this rejection into something beautiful? By midnight, I had sent 27 invitations to a last-minute Christmas gathering for friends, neighbors, and holiday orphans. The responses started coming almost immediately. People who couldn't travel home due to weather. Couples who had fought with their families. Singles with nowhere to go. They all said yes. I fell asleep that night with a strange sense of peace. I didn't know what the next day would bring, But for the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my own story. I couldn't have possibly known that the next 24 hours would change everything, not just for me, but for my entire family. The calls that would come later would reveal truths no one was prepared to face. Morning arrived with fresh snow blanketing my property, as if the universe had decided to give me a picture-perfect setting for my impromptu gathering. I moved through the house with renewed purpose, pulling out serving platters I'd never used, arranging furniture to accommodate conversations between strangers, and finishing the baking I'd started before my father's call. By noon, my kitchen counters were covered with food. I'd turned my grief into productivity, cooking enough for twice the number of guests I'd invited. There were roasted vegetables, 3 different kinds of potatoes, a honey-glazed ham, and a prime rib that cost more than I'd like to admit. The bourbon pecan pie that was supposed to impress my family sat alongside chocolate cake, cranberry tarts, and a traditional Yule log. As I worked, I thought about the Christmas dinners of my childhood. Formal affairs with starched napkins and crystal that no one was allowed to touch. Conversations that were more like performance art than genuine connection. Children seen but not heard. I decided my gathering would be the opposite. Warm, relaxed, and welcoming. The first knock came at 4 o'clock. Dana arrived early, arms filled with bottles of wine and a small potted Christmas tree. "For your first real Christmas party," she said, stepping inside and gasping at the decorations. "Wow, Catherine, this place looks amazing." "Thank you for coming," I said, realizing how nervous I was. These people would be in my home, my personal space. It was intimate in a way business relationships never were. "Are you kidding? You rescued me from Chinese takeout and bad TV movies. This is already the best Christmas Eve I've had in years." More guests arrived in quick succession. The Peterson family from 3 houses down brought their twin daughters, who immediately fell in love with the window seat in my living room. James, the retired professor who lived across the street, came with homemade bread and stories about Christmas celebrations around the world. My colleagues Lisa and Michael arrived together, slightly awkward but grateful for the invitation. By 6 o'clock, my home was filled with laughter and conversation. People who had never met were exchanging phone numbers. The Peterson twins were teaching Dana how to make paper snowflakes. James was deep in conversation with my neighbor Rachel about his time teaching in Japan. I moved among them, refilling glasses and offering food, barely processing what was happening. This wasn't just a gathering. It was a community forming in real time. These people, many of whom I barely knew yesterday, were creating something beautiful in the space my family had left empty. As I was bringing out another tray of appetizers, my phone rang. The screen displayed my mother's number. My hand trembled slightly as I debated answering. The noise around me faded as I stepped into my study and closed the door. "Hello? Catherine." My mother's voice was tight. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" I frowned. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't play innocent. The neighbors called. They said your house is filled with people, cars lining the street, music. Are you deliberately trying to embarrass us?" The realization hit me. The Richardsons, who lived at the end of my street, were friends with my parents. Of course they would report back. "I'm having friends over for Christmas Eve. Since I was uninvited from family dinner, I made other arrangements." "By throwing some tacky party. What will people think?" "I don't particularly care what people think, Mother. Not anymore." A beat of silence followed. When she spoke again, her voice had changed. "Your father made a mistake. We both did." "A mistake?" I repeated, not quite believing what I was hearing. "William Hawthorne canceled. His flight was delayed in Chicago. The whole reason for excluding you is moot now." I let out a laugh that held no humor. "So I'm invited again because your preferred guest couldn't make it? I'm the backup plan?" "Don't be dramatic, Catherine. We're your family." "No, Mother. The people in my living room right now, strangers who showed up with food and kindness when invited at the last minute. They're treating me more like family than you have in years." Another silence, longer this time. When my mother spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "There's something you don't understand. Something we've never told you." "What are you talking about?" "It's not about you or your house or your choices. It's about William. He's your half-brother." The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of my desk to steady myself. "That's not possible. It was before your father and I were married. A mistake. We've kept it secret all these years. The Hawthorns don't know. No one knows except your father and me. And now you." My mind raced through calculations, implications, the weight of this secret. "You've been pushing me to meet him. For years. You tried to set us up. Did you not think that was wrong? We thought you should know each other. As friends, family, nothing more." I felt sick. "You've been lying to me my entire life." A knock at my study door broke through the moment. Dana peeked in, her expression concerned. "Everything okay? People are asking for you." I covered the phone with my hand. "I'll be right there." When I returned to the call, I found my voice had steadied. "I have guests to attend to, Mother. Merry Christmas." I ended the call before she could respond, set my phone on silent, and took a deep breath. The revelation about William was shocking, but strangely, it wasn't what occupied my thoughts. Instead, I felt an odd sense of freedom. The perfect family I had been chasing didn't exist. It never had. The truth had been hiding behind carefully constructed holiday cards and polite society smiles. When I returned to the living room, the warmth and genuine joy of my gathered guests stood in stark contrast to the cold secrets of my family. For the first time, I saw clearly what I had been missing. Not approval, not tradition, but authenticity. Lisa raised her glass as I entered. "There she is. We were just about to toast our wonderful hostess." Glasses lifted around the room, and in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. This was what Christmas should feel like. I had no idea that my mother's call was just the first revelation of the night. The truth was unraveling, and soon, my phone would ring again with news that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. Dinner was served buffet style, with people balancing plates on their laps and sitting wherever they could find space. The formality I'd grown up with was nowhere to be found, replaced by genuine conversation and comfortable silence. I watched as strangers became friends in the span of hours, united by nothing more than an invitation and the shared experience of a holiday that hadn't gone according to plan. James, the retired professor, had captivated a small audience with stories of Christmas traditions in different cultures. "In Japan," he was saying, "Christmas Eve is actually considered a romantic holiday, similar to our Valentine's Day. Young couples exchange gifts and go out to fancy dinners." "That sounds much nicer than fighting with your sister over who gets the last dinner roll," Lisa laughed. "Every tradition starts somewhere," James replied with a smile. "Perhaps this gathering will become your new tradition, Catherine." The idea settled over me like a warm blanket. A tradition of my own making, not inherited or imposed. It felt right. Around 9 o'clock, as I was refilling the dessert table, my phone vibrated in my pocket. A number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would have let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. "Hello? Is this Catherine Thornton?" The voice was male, unfamiliar. "Yes, who's this?" "My name is William Hawthorne. I believe you know who I am." My hand froze on the serving spoon. William. My half-brother. The reason my parents had uninvited me. The secret kept for 34 years. "How did you get this number?" I managed to ask, stepping away from the group again. "Your mother called my father in a state. He was concerned enough to call me. I was supposed to be at your parents' house tonight, but my flight was canceled. I'm still in Chicago." I moved into the kitchen, finding a quiet corner. "I just found out about our connection less than 2 hours ago. I've known for years." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. "You knew? But my mother said no one knew except my parents." A bitter laugh came through the line. "Your mother has always been selective with the truth. I found out when I was 19. Found some old letters, confronted my father. He admitted everything. And you never reached out to me?" "I tried, years ago. Your father intercepted the call, made it very clear that contact would not be welcome, that you didn't know, and it would destroy you if you found out." I leaned against the wall, processing this information. So, all these years, I've known I had a sister I wasn't allowed to know. Yes, I've followed your career, though. Your design work is impressive. Thank you, I said automatically, the compliment barely registering through my shock. Look, I don't want to intrude on your Christmas. I just thought, since the secret's out, maybe we should talk, properly. When I'm back from Chicago. I'd like that, I said, surprising myself with how much I meant it. Good. And Catherine? Whatever they told you about why they kept us apart, there's more to the story. Much more. After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen for several minutes, trying to make sense of everything. My family wasn't just dysfunctional. It was built on lies. And according to William, there were more I hadn't uncovered yet. I was pulled from my thoughts by the sound of singing. In the living room, someone had started a Christmas carol, and others had joined in. The melody was slightly off-key, but heartfelt. I made my way back to the group, feeling strangely detached, as if watching the scene from outside myself. Dana caught my eye, mouthing, "Are you okay?" from across the room. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The carols continued, one song flowing into another. The Peterson twins knew all the words, their childish voices rising above the others. Their innocence was a stark contrast to the web of adult deception I'd just uncovered. The evening continued, but I moved through it in a daze, smiling and nodding at appropriate moments while my mind raced with questions. What was the more to the story that William had mentioned? Why had my parents gone to such lengths to keep us apart while simultaneously trying to push us together as friends? Around 11, as people began to gather their things and exchange contact information, my phone rang a third time. This call I had been expecting. My father. I excused myself and stepped onto the back porch, the cold December air biting at my skin. "Catherine," he said, his voice lacking its usual authority. "Your mother told me she spoke with you." "She did. And then William called me too." A sharp intake of breath. "William? How did he get your number?" "Does it matter? The secret's out now. 34 years of lies exposed in one evening. You don't understand the complexity of the situation." "Then explain it to me," I challenged. "Why keep us apart if you were so keen on introducing us as friends?" A long pause followed. "It's not that simple. Try me." He sighed, and for the first time in my memory, my father sounded old, defeated. "When your mother and I got together, she was already pregnant with William. Malcolm Hawthorne never knew. He met Christine shortly after, fell in love, married her. When William was born, Malcolm assumed the child was his. So my mother had an affair with a married man? No, Malcolm wasn't married yet when he was with your mother. It was complicated. When your mother discovered she was pregnant, Malcolm had already moved on. She came to me. I loved her, had always loved her. I said I would marry her, raise the child as my own. But you didn't. You gave him up. Malcolm and Christine couldn't have children. When they learned about the pregnancy, they offered to adopt the baby. Your mother was young, scared. It seemed like the best solution for everyone. I agreed to it on one condition, that we would always know where he was, be part of his life in some way. I tried to process this. So you've been watching him his whole life, while keeping me in the dark. We thought it was for the best. The Hawthorns are good people. They gave William every advantage. And what about William? When did he find out the truth? My father's voice grew strained. He found some letters when he was in college. Letters from your mother to his. He confronted Malcolm, who finally told him everything. And let me guess, William didn't take it well? He was angry, felt betrayed, stopped speaking to all of us for years. I don't blame him. When he finally reached out again, we thought it might be possible to bring our families together. But we were afraid of how you would react. You've always been sensitive, Catherine. I almost laughed at the characterization. Sensitive. As if discovering your entire family history was a lie was something only a sensitive person would struggle with. So instead of being honest, you manipulated both of us. Tried to create some artificial friendship without telling either of us the truth. We were trying to protect you. No, you were protecting yourselves, your reputation, your perfect family image. Through the glass doors, I could see my guests preparing to leave, gathering coats and exchanging hugs. Strangers who had shown me more honesty in one evening than my family had in a lifetime. I have to go, I said. My guests are leaving. Catherine, please, come tomorrow. We can talk about this as a family, all of us. I already have plans, I said, though I had none. Merry Christmas, Father. As I ended the call and rejoined my guests to say goodbye, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Anger at the deception, grief for the relationship with my brother that I'd been denied. But also, surprisingly, relief. The perfect family I had longed for didn't exist, but perhaps something more authentic could take its place. Dana was the last to leave, helping me stack plates and gather glasses. You don't have to do this, I told her. It's late. I know, but I want to. She paused, studying my face. Something happened tonight, didn't it? Those phone calls. I nodded, not sure how much to share. Family drama. Turns out my parents have been keeping some pretty big secrets. Do you want to talk about it? I considered the question. Not tonight, but thank you. For everything. After Dana left, I stood in my empty foyer, the evidence of the gathering all around me. Dirty dishes, half-empty glasses, crumbs on the carpet. Signs of life and connection that had been missing for so long. My phone buzzed with a text message. William again. If you're free tomorrow, I'll be back in town. Coffee? There's a lot more you should know. I typed my reply. Yes. I'm ready for the truth. As I climbed the stairs to my bedroom, I realized something important. The Christmas I had feared would be my loneliest had instead become the most honest one I'd ever experienced. And tomorrow would bring even more truth, whatever it might be. Christmas morning dawned clear and bright, sunlight reflecting off the snow and streaming through my bedroom windows. For a moment, I lay still, trying to process everything that had happened the night before. The rejection, the party, the revelations, the connections. It felt like I'd lived a year in the span of 24 hours. My phone showed 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 from my father, and a text from William confirming our meeting at a coffee shop downtown at 11. I ignored my parents' calls, sent a quick confirmation to William, and got out of bed. The house was eerily quiet after the bustle of the previous evening. Empty glasses and plates still littered the living room, evidence that it hadn't been a dream. I made coffee and walked through the rooms, picking up napkins and straightening cushions, my mind replaying the conversations that had changed everything. I had a brother who had known about me for years while I remained ignorant, parents who had orchestrated an elaborate deception spanning decades, and apparently there was much more to the story that I still didn't know. At 10:30, I left the mess behind and drove downtown. The streets were nearly empty, most people tucked away in their homes enjoying Christmas morning. The coffee shop William had chosen was one of the few open, a small independent place with worn leather chairs and jazz playing softly in the background. I recognized him the moment I walked in, though we had never met. William Hawthorne had our mother's eyes and jawline. He was tall like our father. No, like Malcolm Hawthorne, the man who raised him, and carried himself with the same confidence. He stood as I approached his table. Catherine, he said, extending his hand. Finally. I took it, feeling the strange connection of touching someone who shared my blood but was a complete stranger. William, please sit. I ordered you a latte. I hope that's okay. It's fine, thank you. I slid into the chair across from him, taking in his features, searching for reflections of myself. This is surreal. Tell me about it. I've been waiting for this moment for 15 years. That's how long you've known? He nodded. Found the letters when I was cleaning out some storage boxes during college break. Letters from Margaret, your mother, our mother, to my mom. Talking about me, about you, about the arrangement. What did they say? The letters. William took a sip of his coffee. They started before I was born. Margaret writing to Christine, explaining the situation, proposing the adoption. Then after, updates. Pictures of me as a baby, as a child. Then later, pictures of you. Your half-sister, she wrote. The daughter we kept. The phrase stung. The daughter they kept. I didn't mean it like that. No, it's accurate. They kept me, gave you up, then spent my entire life lying to me about your existence. William sighed. It wasn't that simple. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, the part of the story they won't tell you. The barista brought our drinks, and we fell silent until she walked away. What do you mean? I asked once we were alone again. Did they tell you why they gave me up? The real reason? My father said, Richard said, that your parents couldn't have children, that it seemed like the best solution. William laughed, a sharp sound without humor. That's part of it, but not all. He leaned forward. Catherine, our mother wasn't just dating Malcolm before Richard. She was engaged to him. I felt my eyebrows rise. Engaged? She never mentioned that. Because of how it ended. Malcolm left her for Christine, my mom. A classic case of the fiancé falling for the best friend. Margaret was devastated, furious. When she found out she was pregnant with Malcolm's child, she went to Richard, who had always had feelings for her. And he agreed to marry her, raise the baby as his own, I said, repeating the story I'd been told. That was the original plan. But then Malcolm and Christine found out about the pregnancy. They couldn't have children. That part is true. And they offered to adopt. But here's where it gets interesting. Margaret agreed, not out of compassion, or because it was best for everyone. She agreed because she wanted revenge. Revenge? How is giving up her child revenge? William's eyes met mine, serious and sad. She made a condition of the adoption. Malcolm and Christine could raise me, but they had to stay in touch. Had to let Margaret be part of my life. Had to accept invitations to events. Maintain the social connection. She wanted to watch them raise her child. Wanted Malcolm to be reminded every time he looked at me that I was his biological son with her. The revelation settled over me like a cold shroud. That's twisted. It gets worse. As I grew up, she would send letters to my mom, comparing us. How you were doing in school versus me. How you were prettier, smarter, more talented. It was psychological torture, designed to hurt Christine. And your mom kept these letters? Why not just cut contact? The adoption wasn't properly formalized. Margaret held that over them. The threat that she could reveal the truth, cause a scandal, potentially even challenge custody. So they endured it. The visits, the letters, the comparisons. I stared into my latte, watching the foam dissolve as I tried to process this new information. So when you found out, I confronted my dad, Malcolm. He broke down, told me everything. I was so angry, Catherine, at all of them, for the lies, the manipulation. I cut contact with both families for years. But you reconciled? You were going to be at my parents' house last night. William nodded. 5 years ago, my mom got sick. Cancer. During her treatment, she asked me to make peace with the situation. Not for Margaret or Richard, but for myself. And for you. For me? She always felt guilty that you were kept in the dark. Said it wasn't fair to you. That you deserved to know you had a brother. He smiled slightly. She kept a file of newspaper clippings about you. Your design awards, gallery openings, charity events you attended. She was proud of you in a way. Called you her other child. Ur's tears pricked at my eyes. A woman I'd never met had cared about me from afar, while my own mother had used me as a pawn in her decades-long revenge scheme. Is Christine still alive? Yes, in remission for the last 3 years. She'd like to meet you, if you're open to it. I nodded, not trusting my voice. After Mom recovered, I reached out to Richard and Margaret. Said I was willing to rebuild a relationship, but only if they told you the truth. They promised they would, said they just needed time to find the right moment. He shook his head. I should have known they were lying. When they invited me for Christmas this year, I assumed they'd finally told you. It wasn't until your mother called my father in a panic last night that I realized they were still keeping the secret. That's why you called me. Yes. I decided enough was enough. You deserved to know. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the truth settling between us. There's one more thing, William said finally. The reason I was so insistent on meeting today. What is it? Your father, Richard, has been having health problems, heart issues. They didn't tell you because they didn't want to worry you, but it's serious. The doctors have advised him to get his affairs in order. I felt a strange disconnect, as if we were discussing characters in a movie rather than my actual parents. How do you know this? My father told me. Richard confided in him about a month ago. I think that's why they finally invited me for Christmas. A last attempt at reconciliation before. He didn't finish the sentence. Before he dies, I said flatly. William nodded. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you. It should have come from them. My phone buzzed again, another call from my mother. I stared at it, conflicted. You should answer, William said gently. Whatever they've done, they're still your parents. And time is running out for conversations with your father. I hesitated, then picked up the phone. Hello, Mother. Catherine, thank God. Her voice was ragged, as if she'd been crying. Your father. He's had another episode. We're at Hartford Hospital. The doctors are with him now. The world seemed to slow down. Despite everything, despite the anger and betrayal, the thought of losing my father before resolving anything sent a spike of fear through me. I'll be there, I said. I'm with William. We'll come together. A pause, then, yes, that would be good. After hanging up, I looked at William. My father's in the hospital. A heart episode. He was already standing, reaching for his coat. I'll drive. My car's just outside. As we walked to the parking lot, I felt a strange sense of alignment. For the first time, I was approaching my family with full knowledge of the truth, and I wasn't doing it alone. My half-brother, a stranger until today, was by my side. William, I said as he unlocked his car. Thank you for telling me everything. He met my eyes over the roof of the car. We should have been doing this all along, growing up together, fighting, making up, supporting each other. They stole that from us. Maybe, I said, opening the passenger door. But we can start now. As we drove to the hospital, I thought about my impromptu Christmas party the night before. Strangers becoming friends, creating connections where none had existed. Perhaps that was the first step in a new pattern for my life, one built on truth rather than appearances, on authentic relationships rather than perfect facades. I didn't know what awaited us at the hospital, what conversations would unfold, what new truths might emerge. But for the first time in my life, I felt ready to face my family. The real one, not the idealized version I'd been chasing for so long. The hospital corridors seemed endless as we followed the signs to the cardiac unit. William walked slightly ahead, his stride purposeful, occasionally glancing back to make sure I was keeping pace. In those moments, I caught glimpses of familiar expressions, the way his brow furrowed in concentration, the slight tilt of his head when thinking, gestures I recognized from my own reflection. We found my mother in a small waiting area, her normally perfect appearance disheveled, makeup smudged where tears had fallen. When she saw us approach, together, her eyes widened, and something like resignation crossed her face. Catherine, she said, standing. Then, with a nod, William. How is he? I asked, keeping my voice neutral despite the storm of emotions beneath the surface. Stable for now. They're running tests. She hesitated, then added, He's been asking for you. Both of us? William asked, his tone careful. My mother nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Yes, both of you. A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Thornton, your husband is awake. He'd like to see his family now, but please keep the visit brief. He needs rest. She nodded, then looked at us. Come. We followed her to a private room where my father lay connected to monitors, an IV in his arm, his face pale against the white sheets. He looked small somehow, diminished. The commanding presence that had dominated my childhood was gone. replaced by an old man in a hospital gown. "Richard," my mother said softly. "They're here." My father's eyes opened, focusing first on me, then moving to William. A complex emotion crossed his face. Relief, regret, resignation. "You found each other," he said, his voice weaker than I'd ever heard it. "No thanks to you," I replied, unable to keep the edge from my tone. William placed a gentle hand on my arm. "What matters is we're all here now." My father's eyes filled with tears. "I've made so many mistakes. With both of you. I thought I was protecting my family, keeping the peace. But all I did was build a house of cards. Why didn't you tell me I had a brother?" I asked. "All these years, all the lies. Why?" "Fear," he admitted. "At first, fear of losing your mother. The arrangement was her idea. I went along with it because I loved her, because I thought it would help her heal. Then later, fear of losing you if you learned the truth. Fear of the scandal, what people would say." He coughed, and my mother quickly offered him water. Such stupid fears, looking back. Things that don't matter at all when you're lying in a hospital bed thinking about what you're leaving behind. William stepped closer to the bed. "I was angry for a long time. At all of you. But holding on to that anger was exhausting. When my mom got sick, I realized how short life is, how precious. I didn't want to waste any more time on resentment." My father nodded, reaching out a shaking hand. After a moment's hesitation, William took it. "Your mother, Christine, she's a remarkable woman. Far better than we deserved. How is she?" "Still in remission. Strong. Good. That's good." My father's gaze shifted to me. "Catherine, I don't expect forgiveness. But I want you to know how proud I am of you. The woman you've become, the life you've built. That was all you. Despite our failures, not because of anything we did right." I felt tears well up, conflicted emotions battling within me. The anger was still there, the sense of betrayal, but alongside it was a lifetime of complex love, of Christmases and birthdays, of small kindnesses mixed with the disappointments. "I don't know how to feel right now," I admitted. "I don't know how to feel right now," I admitted. "I'm angry and hurt. You've lied to me my entire life, but seeing you like this..." I gestured to the hospital bed, the machines. "I don't want our last conversations to be about blame." My father nodded, understanding in his tired eyes. "You always were the compassionate one, even as a child." He looked between William and me. "My two children, together at last. If nothing else good comes from this mess, at least there's that." My mother had remained silent, standing slightly apart, her arms wrapped around herself as if for protection. Now, she stepped forward. "I owe you both an explanation," she said, her voice uncharacteristically small. "Not excuses, but the truth. All of it." "We already know," William said. "I told Catherine everything." She shook her head. "Not everything. Not the worst part." She took a deep breath. "The revenge. The manipulation. It was cruel. Inexcusable. But there's something else. Something I've never told anyone. Not even your father." My father frowned. "Margaret? When I found out I was pregnant with William, I was devastated. Malcolm had left me for my best friend, and now I was carrying his child. I was young, heartbroken, furious. I considered ending the pregnancy." A heavy silence fell over the room. "What changed your mind?" William asked quietly. "Richard," she said, looking at my father with genuine tenderness. "He found me at my lowest moment and offered another way. Said he would marry me, raise the child as his own, that we could be a family." She wiped away a tear. "But I was still so angry at Malcolm, at Christine. When they offered to adopt, I saw it as a way to hurt them and free myself from the reminder of Malcolm's betrayal." "So you gave me up," William said. No accusation in his tone, just a statement of fact. "Yes. And then spent the next 3 decades trying to punish them for taking what I had freely given." She turned to me. "When I became pregnant with you, Catherine, it was different. I wanted you. But as you grew, the guilt about William became unbearable. Every milestone of yours reminded me of what I had denied him, denied myself. I became obsessed with comparing you, not to torture Christine as William thought, but to torture myself. Mother, I started, not sure what to say. The perfect family image, the social standing, the rules and expectations I placed on you, it was all a fortress I built to protect myself from my own shame. I thought if we appeared perfect enough, successful enough, it would somehow make up for what I had done. My father reached for her hand. Margaret, you should have told me. How could I? You were so good, Richard. You forgave me for getting pregnant with another man's child, offered to raise him as your own. Then when I changed my mind, you supported that too. I didn't deserve your goodness. The monitors beeped steadily in the background as we absorbed these new revelations. The story I thought I knew kept shifting. Layers of pain and regret stacked upon each other across decades. When William reached out 5 years ago, my mother continued, I was terrified. Terrified he would tell you the truth, Catherine. Terrified you would hate me. But also, hopeful. I thought maybe finally I could make things right. But every time I tried to tell you, I couldn't find the words. So instead, you tried to orchestrate meetings between us without explaining who we were to each other, I said. A coward's approach, she admitted. And when your father got sick, I became desperate. I thought if I could get us all together for Christmas, somehow the truth would come out naturally, and we could heal before... She glanced at my father. Before time ran out. But you still couldn't do it, William said. Even at the last minute, you chose to uninvite Catherine rather than tell the truth. The Hawthorns weren't coming, I realized. That was a lie, too. My mother nodded. I panicked. I told your father you had other plans, told you we had other guests. I thought I could delay the inevitable, find another way. My father closed his eyes briefly, fatigue evident on his face. So many deceptions. So much wasted time. The doctor appeared in the doorway. I need to ask you all to step out now. Mr. Thornton needs to rest before his next round of tests. We nodded, preparing to leave, but my father gripped my hand. Catherine, William, will you come back? Later? William answered for both of us. Yes, we'll be here. In the hallway, the three of us stood awkwardly, decades of secrets now exposed, leaving us raw and uncertain. I should call Christine, William said finally. Let her know what's happening. She'll want to know about Richard's condition. My mother looked startled. You would tell her? After everything? She's my mother, William said simply. The woman who raised me, loved me, supported me. And despite everything, she never spoke ill of you, never poisoned me against you. She's earned the truth. My mother nodded, accepting this. Of course. You're right. Would you... I hesitated, then pushed forward. Would you tell her I'd like to meet her? When things are more settled here. William smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. She'd like that, very much. As he stepped away to make the call, my mother turned to me. Catherine, I don't know if forgiveness is possible. What I did, what we did, it was wrong. There's no justification. But I want you to know I love you. I have always loved you. My failures as a mother weren't because I didn't love you enough. They were because I couldn't love myself. The words touched something deep inside me. Not erasing the hurt, but offering a perspective I hadn't considered. I don't know what happens next, I said honestly. I need time to process all of this. But I'm not going anywhere. Not while Dad is sick. That's more than I deserve, she said. William returned, phone in hand. Christine sends her prayers for Richard's recovery, and... He looked at me. She's looking forward to meeting you whenever you're ready. My mother straightened, composing herself. We should get something to eat. It could be hours before we can see Richard again. There's a cafe on the first floor, William suggested. As we walked toward the elevators, I felt a strange sense of alignment. My family was broken, built on lies and regret. But for the first time, we were seeing each other clearly. The perfect Christmases of my childhood had been illusions. but perhaps something more authentic could emerge from the ruins. "William?" I said as we waited for the elevator. "I had a Christmas gathering at my house last night. People I barely knew who became something like family in the space of an evening. Would you like to come over later? See where I live? Maybe talk more without all of this hanging over us?" I gestured to the hospital surroundings. "I'd like that," he said. "Very much." My mother stood slightly apart, not included in the invitation. I took a deep breath and turned to her. "You could come too," I offered. "If you want?" Surprise and hope flickered across her face. "Are you sure?" "No," I said honestly. "But it's Christmas Day. Dad's in the hospital, and I just found out I have a brother. Nothing is normal or certain right now. So yes, you can come." The elevator arrived, and as we stepped inside, I thought about my mansion, the symbol of success I had built to prove something to my parents, to myself. Last night, it had been transformed from a showcase into a home, filled with laughter and genuine connection. Tonight, it would host another gathering, one I never could have imagined. As we descended to the cafe, I realized that the calls that had come on Christmas Eve, the rejection from my parents, the revelation from William, the confession from my father, had indeed changed everything. The perfect family I had longed for didn't exist. Never had. But in its place was something real, flawed, complicated, painful, but real. And maybe that was the greatest gift of all,